Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Global Village. I'm your host, Buddy Kunanan. Now, you know, folks, on this show, we take you around the world. You get to meet interesting personalities in the international scene. And we also talk about issues and topics that impact the global community, specifically those that with bearing on the Philippines. Now, tonight, folks, is a very special show because it's going to be about Philippine-Belgian relations. And we have none other than a very good friend of the Philippines and Belgium here in the studio with us, none other than the two-time ambassador of Belgium to the Philippines, His Excellency Roland van Remurtele. Good evening, Ambassador.
Good evening. Nice to be here.
No, so happy to be for you to be here, sir, because for many reasons. Number one, I think that this will probably be one of the last TV shows or TV interviews that you give before you leave the Philippines, and I want to cap it by talking about your experience here in the Philippines. And at the same time, you know, it's a pleasure to have you here to talk about your fascinating and beautiful country, Belgium. And let's start the show by talking about you, Ambassador. Tell us a bit about who is Ambassador Roland van Remurtele.
Well, he's almost retired. End of July. This will be my swan song in the Philippines. But yeah, as you mentioned, you know, a long-time friend of the Philippines because I'm what's called in the trade a balikbayan ambassador. I was ambassador here from 98 to 2002, and I came back in 2013. So I have probably among all the diplomats here, I'm the only ambassador who's served under 5 presidents, starting with Fidel Ramos, over President Estrada to President Arroyo, to President Aquino when I came back, and now President Duterte. So, you know, but coupled with that, most of my career has been in Southeast Asia. So I'm very happy about that. I always tell my wife I've become half Asian anyway because my wife being Singaporean and you know she's domesticated me in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand, Ambassador, that you've had a very interesting career in the Belgian Foreign Ministry. It's taken you to a lot of countries, a lot of different places. Tell us a bit about your journey in this career of yours.
Well, my very first posting in the Foreign Ministry was Saudi Arabia. And I had a wonderful time, even though some people said at the time, oh my God, you know, what are you going to do in Saudi Arabia? But I enjoyed it a lot and traveled a lot, got to know a lot of people. Of course, it was an interesting time, just after the second oil shock. All the money in the world was in Saudi Arabia, the sky was the limit, there was lots going on. And after Saudi Arabia, I was sent to Singapore, a bit to my surprise because I wanted to go somewhere else, but okay. That's just happened to be also the place where I met my wife and where I got married. And after Singapore, sort of in lieu of a honeymoon, I told her that we were moving to Africa, you know, for a Singaporean, where
to move to Africa,
most things work. Going to a place in Congo, Zaire at the time, you know, now called Congo, to the capital Kinshasa, where practically nothing worked. That was quite an experience for her and also for me. And after that, we ended up in Beijing, which was also very interesting because
absolutely,
my wife speaks Mandarin as well. So very funny because it was still the beginning of the opening up of China.
Different time.
And
yes.
exactly.
Yes.
And you know, the only place where you could buy things was in the official friendship stores. And so on. And they would always look at my wife thinking that, in fact, she was the interpreter. And they would tell her in Mandarin, look, have this fellow buy something and we give you 10%, which, you know, was beneficial to both of us. Yeah.
Yes.
And after Beijing, went back to the ministry in Brussels, heading the Asia-Pacific department, enjoyed it a lot. Because I had a foreign minister who enjoyed traveling a lot, especially in Asia.
Yes.
So I was always there. I think at that time I must have been in the Philippines probably 2, 3 times already, but always very short, very short time. Um, and after my stint in Brussels, I was appointed ambassador to the Philippines.
This is the first
And
your first posting in
my first
98.
posting as
Yes.
ambassador, yeah.
Yes.
And I ended up in what I considered then an enormous embassy, because at that time we had a very large development program running with the Philippine government. So I think all in all, with all the people in the embassy, I think we were about 45 or 50 people at
These
the
are
time.
from Belgium. These are
Yeah, all Belgians. So
Yes.
this was
That's a big that's a big embassy.
a huge thing. So gradually, as the project evolved and was pursued, so the presence was wound down. So in the end, it became, I would say, a normal embassy with
Yes.
a couple of people and so on. And then after the Philippines, I was ambassador in Malaysia. Also very interesting. And after Kuala Lumpur, went back to Brussels, did a few interesting jobs in the ministry, inspector of posts, as I was, general auditor, as I was saying, and head of personnel, with all the people coming to you with small and big problems
Difficult job.
for you to solve.
Difficult job. Yes.
Yeah. But useful in the sense that I was able, although under duress by my wife, I was able to appoint myself as ambassador to Singapore after that. So she was happy. We spent 4 years in Singapore. And after Singapore, I was asked by my ministry to come back to the Philippines. So I said yes.
Is that usual, ambassador? Because
Very,
I think
very,
it's
very unusual.
quite rare.
Very unusual, yeah. There must be very few ambassadors or diplomats, ambassadors. Diplomats, sometimes that happens, but in a different position.
Yes.
You
But
start
ambassador
off-
is quite rare.
But ambassador is very rare. So, yeah, I'm one of those rare breed, if you like, that gets assigned twice to
What
the
were your
same country.
feelings when you first found out that there's a good chance that you could actually return as ambassador?
Well, first, of course, surprise. Like, why am I sending me back to the Philippines? But then gradually I began to understand, because the first time I was here, 98, 2002, I call it the turbulent years, because there was a lot of things, a lot of instability politically and economically as well.
Yes.
So, and I'm more economically, commercially minded. And I could see my business people leave the country because, to them the Philippines was already, history in that sense. But having followed the Philippines over the years and see how it gradually, improved, and when I thought, well, going back to the Philippines, yeah, probably, we'll see opportunities and I'll be able to help
Yes.
Belgian companies find a foothold here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Now, 2002 to 2013, was it, because we who live here in Manila, the changes happen incrementally. So you don't really realize it's there until it's in your face. But for you who left in 2002 and come back in 2013, how big a change was there here in the
Oh,
Philippines?
it was. One, traffic. Let's not mention that. But for example, I mean, Fort Bonifacio, when I left in 2002, it was just a green field with 3 restaurants, if I remember, Le Soufflé and a couple of others, and all the rest was free parking. And then you come back and you see this brand new city there, and you ask, come on, in 15 years, this is, wow, fantastic, Secondly, the new industry that sprouted, the BPO industry,
Yes.
did not exist
Yes.
at that time. So, yeah, there's a lot of changes. But at the same time, you see a lot of changes, but at the same time, there's also a lot of things that sort of remain the same, It's, yeah. Like I said before, I go visit the Senate and Congress and so on, and at least half the people I know or I remember, you know,
Yes.
because they were there before. So that sort of thing hasn't changed very much.
Has it been helpful for you in your job as ambassador here? Because obviously, when you came back, you already had these ties from your
Yeah.
first 4 years here. Unlike other ambassadors, when they get to a country, they have to
Yeah.
start from scratch,
Yeah,
basically.
they have to. You have to
Building
start from
ties,
scratch.
relationships.
You have to spend. You know, usually we say that you arrive somewhere new. It takes you a year to find your bearings. You have about 2 years to try and do something, and then the last year you sort of like, well, look around and see, and you're gradually winding down.
Yes.
So that's why 3 years, 4 years in a posting is just right. You know, that because in the end you sort of use the automatic pilot because you think you know everything. For me, yeah, coming back here, I mean, even the second day I was here, I already got a phone call from people shouting at me in my ear saying, "Ah, you're back!" You know, and I wonder how they knew I was back. But so it's you see a lot of old friends and helpful friends. You know that even some things that have changed and new people in government, whatever, that you try to say, "Oh, I would like to meet this one." "Ah, no problem. You know, we can arrange it for you." You see that it makes it very easy for me. It's like we never left.
That's the
in a
advantages
sense.
you have perhaps over your other colleagues
Yeah,
who had
yeah.
to start really from
Yeah.
scratch. Your second term here,
Yeah.
you already had that,
Yeah.
that adjustment and networking
Exactly.
period
Yeah,
over.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, I maintain contact over the years with people from former administrations, you know, even though it was only via an occasional email or something like that. But the minute they know you're back, it's like you never left. Yeah, it makes it really very easy. And then, of course, the new colleagues that arrive look a bit up to you, like, "Oh, do you know this one?" Yeah, I know that one. You know,
Yes,
I know.
yes.
Yeah.
So you're really an old Philippine hand
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
sense, even
yeah.
among the
Yeah.
EU ambassadorial
yeah,
group.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, 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 absolutely. And then, well, I mean, when you say old Philippine hand, first time I was here, I traveled a lot in the country, especially also because of our development program with the Philippines. I was, at the time, I think, probably the only ambassador that traveled to Mindanao at least once a month.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah,
Yes.
we were emphasizing our development program in Mindanao. So yeah, I got to know a lot of people. I got involved with a lot of other things like from repertory theater to you know, yeah, we were really
Integrated.
well integrated in society.
Which is
Yeah,
good. Which is really what what diplomats should do,
yeah,
right? When you get transplanted to a new place, you have to assimilate, and
Yeah.
that's the best way to really do your job. I think.
yeah.
You know.
But no, some people didn't know that we were back, and it's only a year ago now that I happened to be at a dinner or reception, I can't remember, and I see a guy somewhere, you know, and I look at him, I say, "I know this guy, I've seen him before, you know," and I saw him look at me as well.
And
I
it's a
said, "Oh my
surreal moment.
God, Ed, yes, how are you? You know, and you're back. Where have you been?" And so on. It's great. You know,
Nice. It's like a
great
homecoming
feeling.
of sorts, no?
Yeah.
Do you feel like Manila has become your home? Do you feel at home here, Ambassador?
Oh yeah, yeah, perfectly at home. Yeah, absolutely.
What will you miss most about the Philippines when you leave?
I think the people, definitely. Yeah. The way they make you feel welcome, the way they treat you, the hospitality, the smile, especially. You know, I think it's got something to do with the climate, perhaps as well. You know, it's always sunny. The weather is nice. When you go to Europe, and especially in winter, when it's cold and people all have a sort of, you know,
Of course, of course. You know, they say the
not so
closer...
pleasant face, and you come here and everybody is smiling, even in adversity. You know, they're still
So
smiling.
that's one of our gifts. And I think you've been to, you were posted in China, in Singapore,
Yeah.
Malaysia. I think it's safe to say the Filipinos are one of the friendliest
Yeah.
and perhaps happiest peoples in Asia.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, and then also not too serious, you know.
That can also be a problem.
When you come from Singapore, yeah, where everybody is very serious,
Yes.
you come back here, okay, you know, it's you take it as it comes, you know. You take it also with a smile, and you know, it can be a problem, yeah, especially when you want something done quickly.
There's such things as
There's-
Filipino time.
There is, exactly, you know, I was going to mention it. There is such a thing as Filipino time. But okay, once you're used to it, you're used to it, you know.
And mentioning the traffic, it's given people an excuse now, because you know it's the culprit for every late appointment.
Yeah.
It's the traffic that got me. So
yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah.
we're all victims of that.
Yeah.
No one is immune.
Yeah, but even before, when there was no traffic, people would still come late. I don't know what the excuse was then, but they would still come late.
Talking
I mean,
about-
that's typically Asian, I think. The later you come, the more important you feel.
Yes.
Right?
No, but talking about punctuality, before we stop for our break, I just want to point out that your airport in Belgium apparently has been rated the most punctual
Yeah.
airport in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
I mean, I had even if I think number 2 is the airport in Osaka. So I think you know, in the second segment we talk about you know, Belgian society and culture.
Yeah.
We'll talk about where this comes from. This is it the perhaps the Germanic influence that makes
Exactly.
you guys on time and
exactly.
punctual.
You know, you put your finger right on it, and that's one of the reasons why I would encourage people to visit Belgium, because you know, people visit Europe, and if you look at Europe, I sort of divide Europe in two large parts.
Yes.
You have the south of Europe, you know, the more casual, la sort of, you know, from Spain, Portugal, France, Italy, whatever, and the south of Belgium. And then you have the more serious part in the north, you know, northern Belgium, Flanders, the Netherlands, Germany, Scandinavia, you know, we're all serious people. But in Belgium, you have both together. You know, you have the southern parts of Belgium, where it's a bit more frivolous, I would say, and then the northern part, which is very, very serious.
Ambassador, for which part are you?
I'm from the north,
You
Yeah.
could have fooled me.
but I'm very frivolous.
Ambassador, we have a pause for a break. When we come back, we're going to take off
Okay.
from there, talk about differences in Belgium, and we're going to talk about
Okay.
also the state of Philippine-Belgian relations and all that. So hold that thought. Guys, more of Philippine-Belgian relations with Ambassador Roland van Remurtele when Global Village returns.
I'd like to tell you about a country that lies next to the North Sea, a country to which I seem to be very much attached, even if I am looking down on it, quite literally. It's one of the world's most densely populated countries, yet this is not evident from the air. What is apparent, though, is an abundance of green. Why don't you come and join me on this flight?